Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. Today, Duane Toews is at the Kansas Speedway with stories about the ethanol industry. But first, Richard Childress, former NASCAR driver, shares his experiences with ethanol. And then Scott Zaremba, president of Zarco USA, explains the development of ethanol distribution locations. We'll also bring you this week's Kansas Soybean report. And then Scott Anderson with Pratt Energy discusses marketing ethanol. We'll end our show today with Greg Krissek, CEO of Kansas Corn Growers Association. It's all coming up on Farm Factor. Stay tuned.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. This segment is brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Good morning and welcome back to Farm Factor. First today, we hear from Richard Childress, who discusses his support for ethanol.
I think the whole key to it goes back to when I met with Tom Bias, and we put together a deal to put American ethanol on the car. Even before that, we did the testing on our racing fuels, and we run E15, Sunoco E15 in our race cars today. We did a lot of the testing to do that. We tested all the way up to E30, and E30 worked just as well. I mean, these engines, they'll turn up to 9,500 RPMs. They'll run solid for 3.5 or 4 hours at a time. And if they'll withstand that, they'll withstand you running your family back and forth. And, you know, all the fuels today, most of our fuels today have E10 in it. And we're trying to put out new blending pumps that you can blend up to your desire, but E15 is a great blend. So we started running in our cars E15 corn ethanol back in 2011. And as of today, we put over 8 million miles on these race cars without one single fuel failure. You know, anytime we had a change in NASCAR, everybody wonders what's going to happen, what's the next thing? Is this going to be bad or is this going to be good? And as we did the work and our homework, it's no different when we went from leaded fuels to unleaded fuels. Now we have a E15 blend, and someday, pretty soon, maybe we'll go to E30. So when NASCAR makes another engine change, which they're talking about it may be 3 years down the road, we will probably change the blend and go up higher. I don't know if we go fully to 30. This year, IMSA is running E20 in all of their cars. There's been over $26 million in just media exposure alone with TV, which is big. You know, that's a big hit. And the fans, you know, when the fans can see and understand, NASCAR has the greatest loyal following. We got 75 million race fans. They get to know that we're running E15 corn ethanol. Austin Dillon's car has E15. 15% ethanol right on the hood, and that's a good story to tell. When you sit and explain that with corn ethanol we only use 1/3 of that kernel, the starch out of it, and the rest of it goes to brewer's grain or distiller's grain, however you would want to call it, and then that's fed to cattle and pork. And it's a lot of myths out there about ethanol, and we try to change those myths and let people know the great benefits and what it does for our country, not depending on foreign oil, the economic impact it has. The admission is so much better, so a lot of great things for ethanol. You know, I'm a guy that loves America. I'm a guy that wants to see my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren have a lot of the opportunities I had in this great country. America has so many natural resources for us to enjoy, from the mountains to the oceans to the plains. And I just want to see the younger generation enjoy it as I did. It just makes me feel good to know that it's something that we're doing right for the American farmer. So that's how we got involved in it.
Stay with us here on Farm Factor as Duane Toews catches up with Scott Zaremba, president of Zarco USA.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Here's another gardening tip with Annette Jackson from Jackson's Greenhouse.
Fall is a great time to plant perennials, trees, shrubs, and bulbs. Root development occurs with the moist and cool soil conditions, which means better growth next year with less watering and maintenance. The use of mulch on all plantings helps protect from freezing, thawing, and drying out. Let Jackson's help with your next planting.
Jackson's top quality fall bulbs for spring blooming have arrived. Always plant the best bulbs for bigger, better blooms.
Jackson's Greenhouse has what you need today.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Welcome back to Farm Factor. Let's join Duane and Scott as they discuss increasing the distribution of ethanol fuel options for consumers.
Duane Toews joining you from the Kansas Speedway, Kansas City, Kansas, and the opportunity during a NASCAR race to catch up with Scott Zaremba. An opportunity here to talk a little bit about marketing ethanol. Your company on the cutting edge and leading forefront in providing ethanol opportunities to people in Kansas. Tell us a little bit about your stations and what you've done.
Well, Duane, we started in 2008 with some of the first blender dispensers in Kansas, giving a wide variety of blends to all of our consumers. And then July of 2012, we're the first retailer in the United States to offer E15. And so since then, we've been in the process of helping all those other retailers understand what the options are for ethanol blends and how they can do it and do it efficiently and make money at it.
Well, that really is one of the keys, not only making money, but that efficiency issue, making sure that you have the right equipment. Did you have any help from the national organizations in trying to get that put in place?
You know, when we started in 2008, we were on our own at that time. And since then, there's been several programs that have come down, and I think you'll talk about some of those later today, that are going to be available to those of us in Kansas and throughout the rest of the United States in order to bring more blending equipment in and give that opportunity to the retailers and our consumers to be able to have those choices.
As far as your operation, how is ethanol received from your customers? Obviously, you're on the front line of that.
Oh, you know, it's been very positive. And, you know, it gives us the ability to have control over what we're selling our consumers and giving them a choice. And with that, we've been able to increase our volumes over the years as we've progressed with our ethanol blends.
You referenced E15. Obviously, the majority of the fuels today are at that 10% blend level. But we really need to go beyond that if we're going to expand this industry from my perspective.
Oh, and we are, and that's what we like about what we started in 2008 and working through today is we have the ability to blend up to 85% today and anything in between. And so with that evolution of the equipment and the ability to blend, we can bring those higher blends in because we know that as we move forward, we're going to need higher blends that have higher octane to take care of the auto industry. And so we're excited about bringing that clean American ethanol.
There obviously has been some pushback from some outside of the ethanol community about what that may do. What kind of a perception have you gotten from the consumers that are starting to get more comfortable using those blender pumps?
Well, you know, we've been doing it quite a while. So since 2008, we've never had a complaint and we've never had an issue with our blending pumps or with the products that we've distributed to the community. And so, you know, we're excited about that, you know, the perception that's out there that some people try to bring forward is not a true fact. And so with that, we're able to bring quality products to our consumers without having any issues.
Our thanks to Scott Zaremba joining us at the Kansas Speedway. American Ethanol sponsoring races this weekend in Kansas City. Jamie, back to you in studio.
Thanks, Duane. Next up is this week's Kansas Soybean Report. Don't go away.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Report.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Peter Mishik, managing consultant for the Kansas Soybean Commission, is joining us. And Peter, back in the month of September, you organized a tour of Mexican soybean traders, processors to come to the United States and visit Midwest farms and specifically soybeans.
This is an effort which the Kansas Soybean Commission and a couple of the surrounding states, specifically Nebraska, Iowa, and North and South Dakota, are involved in, basically to build relationship with our fellow agriculturalists to the south, the people that are raising livestock in Mexico. It's a relatively new initiative. It's about 2 years old, and this was one of the first big groups from Mexico, and typically they're buyers and nutritionists. It's important both for our producers to see what's going on in the destination markets where we're selling things, and it's really important for buyers to come up and see really the professional caliber of our producers, how automated they are, how technologically savvy they are, how great a job they do with the handling and the care they give to their crop, and the environment and the cleanliness in which the grain is raised and harvested and delivered to market. Once you visit some of these countries in Latin America, you can see why they're very, very impressed with the way our producers are handling the inputs for their animals. Another thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to increase the awareness of how big the farms are here and what our U.S. export facilities are like. Even our producers in the U.S. have a tendency to always picture this elevator on a coast loading a ship. The reality is, with a country like Mexico, their export facilities are rail terminals. When they can go visit a nice rail facility in Concordia or somewhere along the northern tier or over at Atchison, those things are very impressive to them, how efficient they are and how clean they are.
Peter, because the U.S. tends to have that higher protein content in their soybeans, I'm sure that's very important to those buyers like in Mexico and Central America and South America.
I think the thing to remember is there's really two buyers down in Mexico. There's ones that are buying the whole soybeans. Those are part of the group. And then there's those that are buying the soybean meal. Mexico is our number one importer of soybean meal from the U.S. They're number two in whole soybeans behind China.
Peter Mishik, managing consultant for the Kansas Soybean Commission, has been our guest on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
I hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Report. Stay tuned for Duane's visit with Scott Anderson, Marketing Manager with Pratt Energy.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
This segment brought to you by Heinen Brothers Ag, farmers helping farmers by offering quality aerial and ground application, fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia. Call today to protect your crop yield.
Welcome back. Let's catch up with Duane as he and Scott discuss the marketing of ethanol for Pratt Energy.
Duane Toews joining you once again on Ag AM in Kansas. A chance while at the Kansas Speedway to catch up with Scott Anderson with Pratt Energy. Scott, you market ethanol for the plant, and a pretty important job, critical that we keep some profitability in this.
Absolutely. You know, it's very important to this agricultural state, and we market about 55 million gallons annually to the petroleum industry, and we have 11 other ethanol plants in the state. We do over 500 million gallons annually as a state. So we consume about 15 or 16 million bushels of corn at our facility, corn or milo this year. So it's a big economic engine for the Pratt community and for the state as a whole.
We think about the opportunities for growers in the area. Obviously a big consumer of corn and sorghum as well.
Absolutely. You know, we have at Pratt about 120 trucks a day on our property that are either hauling in corn or hauling out the distiller's grain and ethanol.
Thinking about marketing, obviously the ethanol one component, you referenced the distillers. The cattle industry certainly has embraced that product. Not really a byproduct, it's a co-product, if you will.
Absolutely. I've been in the industry about 6 years, and we used to refer to it as a byproduct, but now it's certainly a co-product and helps to drive the economic engine of the ethanol plant. We also have a third co-product in the form of a distiller's oil that we spin off too, and that also either goes to biodiesel or back to the cattle industry and the feedlots.
We're obviously at a point where E10 has been around for some time. E15, another option for us that we're trying to push into the marketplace.
Absolutely. So we're here at the NASCAR race, and this is the American Ethanol sponsored race, which promotes E15, which is 15% ethanol in the blended gasoline. And they've been doing that for 5 years now, and they've driven over 8,000 miles at about 9,000 and 9,500 RPM on these engines. So under a very stressful condition, they've had no failures on the engines in the 5 years that they've been doing it. So pretty impressive.
Austin Dillon driving the number 3, representing American Ethanol. Richard Childress Racing, he's been a great advocate for ethanol as well.
Absolutely, yeah. He was at the Kansas City Agribusiness Luncheon on Friday, got to listen to him speak. And, you know, he continues to stress, and that's really, I think, what it's all about, is removing ourselves from the dependence of foreign oil, you know, and keeping people safe and producing a product that's made right here in the U.S.
As far as your job there with Pratt Energy, marketing ethanol, I'm assuming there's a limited market that you sell to, or is it pretty broad?
So we would be like a wholesale business, and we're going to sell to mainly the major oil companies or the independent refiners in our market area. Pratt happens to be a truck-only market, so all of our product is shipped by truck. Some of the other plants will use the railroads and ship farther distances.
So as far as a typical day at an ethanol plant, do we have product coming out on a continual basis, or is it on cycles?
Yeah, so it's a continuous flow type operation, and every 58 hours they produce another batch of ethanol, but it's on a continuous flow basis, so there's always something in the system. And at Pratt, we produce about 600 truckloads of ethanol, or about 4.5 million gallons on a monthly basis.
As far as in terms of how much then that goes through that plant, a great opportunity for growers in the area, both corn and sorghum, to improve their basis for the grain that they grow and sell.
Absolutely. We put more demand on that feedstock, and that in turn runs the prices up, and then it benefits the farm economy.
Well, our thanks to Scott Anderson with Pratt Energy joining us here on Ag AM in Kansas. Jamie, back to you.
Stay with us as Duane visits with Greg Krissek, CEO of the Kansas Corn Growers Association. That interview is next here on Farm Factor.
I'm a patient of Kansas Regenerative Medicine in Manhattan. I had stem cell therapy in my hips and my left knee. My wife and I both are patients. We went down there the same day in November. Since then, my hips are feeling a lot better. I can work now most of the day if I want to. And before, if I worked in the morning, I was done in the afternoon, or if I worked in the afternoon, I was sure enough done for the rest of the day.
I will take action against herbicide-resistant weeds. I will know my weeds, and I will stop them before they go to seed. I will do whatever it takes to give my crops the upper hand. And I will use multiple herbicide sites of action because every action counts. I will take action, this time for all time.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor. Let's meet up with Duane and Greg as they discuss how proud Kansas corn growers are of ethanol's successful use in NASCAR.
Duane Toews joining you once again here from Kansas Speedway on race weekend. A little breezy. Greg Krissek joins us from Kansas Corn, and what a beautiful day, Greg, for Kansas corn growers to be proud of American ethanol and its use here in NASCAR.
That's right. Here we go. Another opportunity, another NASCAR season, Duane. We're close to, or we're over 8 million miles that NASCAR circuit and the drivers have used Sunoco Green E15 without a single mechanical problem throughout these entire years. It's a great performance fuel, and we're looking forward to getting it out for consumers to start using as well.
We think about why that's important. There's been some pushback from the outside the ethanol world and agricultural community about using E15 in our cars. And well, if they can put them in these $100,000 engines, I'd think for yours and mine, it might be all right.
That's right. Again, the performance tests, the engineering tests that everyone from the EPA to the automakers have now done are all positive, and it will be a great fuel for the American consumer.
We think about the support and how we make that all happen, and the American ethanol here is part of NASCAR. It goes all the way back to the states and the individual growers and producers who believe in the product that we make out of corn and provide those dollars that we can get the kind of great public opportunity to display E15 and ethanol before NASCAR fans across the country.
This is really, American ethanol has really been a great partnership between the ethanol plants, some of whom are now over 10 years old, and the grain and corn producers that have helped get this all started, both the ethanol industry in this last decade, as well as using corn and the distillers' grains as the co-product with our livestock customers.
I understand that there is a new initiative that is just on the cusp, if you will, not here yet, but pretty exciting things that may be coming in the near future.
So the next step for E15 specifically is to have more regular convenience stores, gasoline stations carrying it. And we are working hard, again, really the partnership that was created and based in American ethanol is moving into working with the gasoline stores, gasoline stations, to help them put in the right type of dispenser pump infrastructure for us to be able to have more E15 out there. So the USDA announced a biofuels infrastructure program. Kansas is one of the 21 states that will be receiving grants under that program. And then our Kansas corn, the Renew Kansas, which is the ethanol producers in the state, and the grain sorghum producers, both at the national and state level, we've all put together matching dollars to be able to go out and hopefully work with and install nearly up to 100 pumps through this program.
Certainly having those pumps available to the consumer, if we don't have it in a package that they can utilize and consume, it's hard to push those gallons.
That's right. It's the buying decision for gasoline and fuel at the pump is driven by price and availability, and we've got to be able to help meet both those demands.
Well, our thanks to Greg Krissek with Kansas Corn joining us at Kansas Raceway here in Kansas City, Kansas on a great weekend with American Ethanol, one of the lead sponsors, title sponsor of the Saturday race, certainly a big part of the Sunday race with NASCAR Sprint Cup here as well. Jamie, back to you in studio.
Thanks again for joining us at the Kansas Speedway as we explored the success of the ethanol industry in Kansas. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor. We're here every Tuesday on Ag AM in Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com.